The council sat in their cold observation chamber, watching the small human shuttle descend through the storm clouds of Nine. The planet was a death trap, ice covered every surface. Wind speeds exceeded 150 miles per hour. Temperature readings showed negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit. This was the test. The species had explored thousands of worlds. They had conquered empires. They had built civilizations that stretched across entire star systems, but humans puzzled them. Humans were strange. They were weak compared to other advanced species. They relied too much on technology. They needed constant comfort and safety, or so the council believed. Commander, the lead observer, sat at the control station. His skin reflected the blue light from the screens. His 3 eyes watched the shuttle slow its descent, had recommended this test personally. He wanted to prove that humans were inferior. He wanted to show the council that accepting humans as equals was a mistake. The shuttle touched down hard on the ice. Wind battered its hull. Snow accumulated on the windows in seconds. The pilot, a human named David, struggled to keep the landing gear locked. The landing was rough but successful. Commander Lisa Hayes stood up from her seat in the shuttle. She was a tall woman with dark hair tied back tight. Her face was weathered from years of dangerous work. Her eyes were sharp and focused. She had been chosen for this mission because she was a survivor. She had lived through things that killed weaker humans. Lisa looked at the 5 others in the shuttle with her. Was an engineer with smart eyes and strong hands. He had built things in impossible conditions before. Carol was a medic. She had worked in war zones and disaster areas. She knew how to keep people alive when everything tried to kill them. Was a geologist. He read the earth. He understood stone and soil and how the world worked. Susan was a communications specialist. She could talk to anyone and make them understand. Aaron was a mountain guide. He had survived avalanches and blizzards and freezing temperatures that would kill normal people. These 6 humans had not been chosen by accident. They were the best humanity had to offer for a survival test. Lisa looked at David. She said, "Get the emergency supplies. We have maybe 30 minutes before this shuttle becomes a tomb." David nodded. He was the pilot, but he was also trained in survival. He moved fast. He opened the storage compartment and pulled out emergency kits. The supplies were basic: tools, rope, cloth, emergency rations for maybe 4 days if they ate small portions, a basic medical kit, a radio that might work if conditions allowed. The shuttle shook. Wind hit it like a living thing, looked out the window. He could see nothing but white and darkness. The blizzard was total. It was complete. It was hungry. Lisa made a decision. She said, "We go out. Now we move away from the shuttle at least 50 meters. We find shelter, natural shelter if possible." Aaron said, "The shuttle is protection." Lisa shook her head. She said, "The shuttle will trap us. When the fuel runs out, there will be no heat. We will freeze inside a metal box. We move and we survive, or we stay and we die." She was not wrong. They all knew it. They put on everything warm they had. They wrapped cloth around their faces. They covered every exposed skin. The temperature outside would kill exposed skin in minutes. Frostbite would take a hand or a foot in maybe 10 minutes. Lisa opened the shuttle door. The wind screamed like something alive. Snow poured in like water. The cold was so intense it took her breath away, but she pushed through. The others followed. They moved into the white nothing. They could barely see each other. Held to Susan's arm. Grabbed Aaron's shoulder. Lisa led. She moved through the blizzard like she was reading a map only she could see. In the orbital station above, watched the screens. The humans had left the shuttle. He found this amusing. They would freeze to death in less than 2 hours. He had calculations. He had data. The data said humans could not survive this. Lisa moved forward. She felt the ground slope down. She pushed the others down. They fell into a small depression in the ice. It was not much, but it was something. Felt the ground under his hands. He said, "There is rock here, ice and rock together, a natural depression." Lisa said, "This is our position. This is where we start." The wind was still intense but less direct now. They huddled in the depression, was already thinking. He said, "Snow. We can build with snow, pack it hard, make walls." Carol's teeth chattered. She said, we need heat now." Lisa said, "First we build, then we heat. If we heat without shelter, the heat dies in the wind." In the orbital station, turned to his second officer. He said, "They are attempting to build shelter from snow. How foolish. Snow provides no insulation. Snow is just frozen water." The second officer said, "Their calculations seem primitive." Said, "Yes, They will learn that survival here requires more than luck. But below on 9, the humans were already working, had pulled out the tools. Aaron was showing the others how to cut blocks of ice. Lisa was directing. They worked fast. Their hands went numb, but they kept working. They built a wall of compressed snow blocks. They made it thick. Aaron explained that snow could trap air. Trapped air meant insulation. It meant warmth stayed inside and cold stayed outside. Found a space under a rock overhang. They positioned their shelter there. The rock would block wind from above. The snow walls would block wind from the sides. Hours passed. The humans worked without stopping. Frostbite threatened their fingers and toes. The cold tried to kill them, but they kept building. By the time darkness fell, they had a structure. It was not beautiful. It was not comfortable. But it was a shelter. Said, now we heat. He pulled out emergency supplies. He had been thinking about this since the shuttle landed. He found cloth. He found emergency rations that contained oils. He created a small burning device. He had to be careful. They needed heat, but not so much heat that they used all the oxygen in their small space. Morning light filtered through the snow. It was weak, but it was light. The team had survived the first night. Lisa opened her eyes and felt pain everywhere. Cold had worked its way into her bones, but she was alive. Around her, the others were moving. Carol checked everyone for frostbite and damage from the cold, was studying the shelter structure. Aaron was looking out at the landscape, was examining the ground beneath their feet. Susan was testing the radio equipment, though they all knew the storm would block any real transmission. The blizzard had not stopped. If anything, it was worse. Wind still screamed. Snow still fell in heavy sheets. Temperature readings on their emergency equipment showed it had dropped even further overnight. Lisa said, we need to improve this shelter. What we have is not enough. Stood up, he said, the snow blocks are good, but they are too thin. We need thickness. We need layers. If we build another layer of blocks with airspace between them, the insulation will be much better. Aaron added, we also need to reduce wind penetration. We need an entrance tunnel. Wind cannot blow straight in if there is a tunnel. Pointed to something. He said, look at this rock formation. It goes deeper than we thought. If we clear away the snow here, we can use the rock itself as one wall. It will be stronger than snow blocks. Carol said, we need to think about heat loss too. How many hours before our fuel runs out? Calculated in his head. He said, maybe 30 hours, maybe 40 if we use it carefully. Lisa made a decision. She said, we work in shifts, 2 people rest, 4 people build, every 2 hours we switch. This way no one gets so cold they cannot think. They started immediately. The first shift was Aaron, and they cut snow blocks. They shaped them. They stacked them according to his design. The blocks were not perfect, but they were solid. By midday, the shelter had grown. It was bigger now, stronger now. They had created an entrance tunnel that bent so wind could not blow straight inside. The tunnel was like a maze. It trapped cold air and kept warm air in. Lisa and Susan used the rest time to organize the interior. They arranged supplies. They created a space for the heat source away from the entrance. They made a sleeping area where they could all lie close together to share body heat. When the second shift took over, Lisa and Aaron went out to cut more blocks while and rested. The work was brutal. Their hands went numb. Pain stabbed through their fingers, but they did not stop. By evening, something amazing happened. Found something under the snow. He called out, heat. There is heat coming from below. Everyone stopped. Was a geologist. He knew what he was talking about. Said the planet has geothermal activity. There is heat just below the surface here, maybe 10 meters down at most. Asked, can we access it safely? Said, we can try, but carefully. We need to reach the heat without breaking through into something that kills us. They dug carefully, directed them. He tested the ground with tools. Slowly they created a hole. The temperature at the bottom got warmer, warmer, still warmer. Aaron said, I feel it. It is warm. They created a channel, not deep, just deep enough. The geothermal heat began to rise into their shelter, not much but real heat, real warmth. Said, we can use this. We do not need to burn our fuel so much now. The natural heat will help. Inside the shelter, the temperature began to rise. Carol took readings. She said, it is above freezing now, barely above, but above. In the orbital station, received the data. The heat signature inside the shelter had increased, but their fuel consumption had decreased. This made no sense in calculations. His second officer said, "They found geothermal energy." Said, "Impossible. The probability of finding accessible geothermal heat in this location is less than 1%. The second officer said, "And yet they found it." His three eyes narrowed. He had given this test because he was certain humans would fail. Humans were supposed to be soft. Humans were supposed to panic and die. This was not happening. By the second night, the shelter was transformed. It had thick walls. It had an entrance tunnel. It had insulation from both the snow and the natural geothermal heat. It had organized storage. It had a stable heat source that did not require their emergency fuel. The 6 humans sat together inside their shelter. The temperature was cold but survivable. They were tired and hungry but alive. Lisa said, "We are doing better than anyone expected." Said, "The shelter is stable now. The design is working." Carol checked everyone again. She said, "Some minor frostbite, some dehydration, but no serious damage. We can recover." Aaron said, "This shelter will hold for days if it needs to." Susan asked, "How long until the storm stops?" Said, "The geological data suggests this is a major storm system. Maybe 3 days more, maybe 4. Lisa nodded. She said, "Then we have supplies for 3 days. If we ration carefully, we can stretch it to 4 or 5 days." The team understood what she meant. They would survive this. The test would not kill them. Looked at Lisa, he said, "They thought we would fail." Lisa said, "Yes, they thought we were weak." The third day brought the worst of the blizzard. The storm grew stronger instead of weaker. Wind speeds increased. The shelter shook. Snow piled up against the walls. Darkness came early because the clouds were so thick. Inside the shelter, the 6 humans gathered close. They knew this would be the hardest night. The storm was at its peak. Everything outside wanted to kill them. The shelter would be tested now. Carol distributed the rations carefully. Each person received a small portion, not enough to feel full but enough to provide energy. They had to make the food last. Had calculated that with careful rationing they had supplies for 4 more days at minimum. Lisa said, "Everyone must eat and drink. Carol will monitor water intake. The cold dries you out even when you do not feel thirsty." Checked the structure again. He looked at every joint where blocks met. He examined the entrance tunnel. He tested the heat distribution. The shelter was holding. The walls were strong. The design was working. Aaron moved around the shelter, ensuring everyone was positioned correctly. He said, "We need to stay close. Body heat is important. We share warmth." Susan sat near the radio equipment. She made periodic attempts to transmit, though she knew the storm would block everything. It was something to do. It gave her purpose. Was quiet. He watched the shelter. He understood geology and Earth. He read the ground beneath them. He knew this planet better than any human had ever known it before their arrival. As night fell completely, the sound of the wind became almost unbearable. It was not just noise. It was a physical force. It pushed against the shelter. It tried to tear through the walls. Lisa gathered everyone together. She said, "We will get through this. We are humans. Our ancestors survived ice ages. They survived blizzards. They crossed frozen continents when the world was covered in ice." Aaron said, "She is right. I have read about humans who crossed to North America on frozen land. They walked for thousands of miles with nothing but what they carried." Carol added, "And humans have survived shipwrecks. Avalanches, earthquakes, humans survive. It is what we do." Said, "We have shelter, we have heat, we have food and water, we have each other. These are the things that matter." Said, "And we have knowledge. We understand how to use this planet. We found geothermal heat. We understand the structure of ice and snow. We are not just surviving by luck. We are surviving by understanding." Susan said, "When we get out of this, people need to know. The council needs to understand that humans are not weak." Lisa said, "Let them watch. Let them see what humans do when everything is against us." In the orbital station, the council watched the storm data. The conditions were now beyond extreme. The wind speed had reached 180 miles per hour. The temperature was negative 95 degrees. The storm was the worst recorded on 9 in the last 50 years. Presented the data to the full council. He said, "The humans have been on the planet for 30 hours. They should be dead. All calculations suggested they would fail by hour 12. A council member named said, "They will fail now. No species can survive these conditions. The shelter will fail. We should retrieve them." Said, "I recommend we continue observation. The humans show adaptive behavior. They continue to improve their situation even as conditions worsen. This is unexpected. Another council member, older and more skeptical, said, "Why do you defend them? You recommended this test. You believed they would fail." Said, "I believed the data. The data was wrong. I have observed their methods. They use practical intelligence. They cooperate. They solve problems with what they have. This is not weakness. This is strength." Below on 9, the night deepened. The blizzard intensified. The shelter was pushed by wind with tremendous force. Some of the outer snow blocks cracked from the pressure. Said, "We need to reinforce the walls." Lisa said, "We will lose heat if we open the shelter." Said, "We will lose the shelter entirely if we do not reinforce it." He was right, they had no choice. Working quickly, and Aaron went out into the blizzard. They could barely see each other in the darkness and snow. They carried blocks of compressed ice and attached them to the damaged areas. The work was dangerous. Wind knocked them down. Cold threatened their consciousness, but they finished. When they came back inside, Carol checked them for injuries. Both men were close to severe hypothermia. She wrapped them in everything warm and positioned them close to the heat source. Lisa said that was dangerous. Said the shelter needed to be saved. Carol said, "You almost did not come back." Did not answer. They both knew it was true. Another 5 minutes in the cold and they would have lost consciousness. Another 5 minutes after that and they would have been dead. But the shelter held. The reinforcement worked. The walls resisted the wind. Through the long night, the team stayed awake in shifts. 2 people always slept while the others watched. They listened to the wind. They monitored the structure. They took turns adding fuel to the heat source but using it sparingly. Told stories about the Earth. He spoke about mountains and oceans. He talked about how humans had lived in every climate, hot deserts, frozen tundra, high mountains, deep valleys. Humans had survived everywhere. Aaron added his own stories, about climbers who reached the peak of the highest mountains, about expeditions in Antarctica that traveled thousands of miles with almost nothing. Carol spoke about human medicine, about how the human body was designed to survive cold, about how humans had physiological responses that other species did not have, the ability to shiver and generate heat, the ability to slow metabolism in extreme cold. Spoke about engineering, about how humans had built shelters for thousands of years. Every culture had developed ways to survive in extreme conditions. Igloos, underground shelters, constructed shelters of stone and wood and ice. Susan recorded these stories. She documented everything. She knew that if they survived, this information would be important. This would prove what humans could do. As the long night wore on, something shifted. The humans stopped being afraid. They stopped focusing on what could kill them. They focused on what they were doing right, on what was working, on survival. By the time dawn came, the team had survived the worst the storm could do. They were exhausted. They were hungry. They were cold, but they were alive. Lisa looked at her team and said, "We are still here." The morning of the 4th day showed signs of change. The blizzard had not stopped, but it was losing some of its intensity. Wind speeds had dropped to 130 miles per hour. The temperature was still deadly, but slightly less so than before. Inside the shelter, the humans rested. They had made it through the worst, but they were growing tired. The psychological weight of constant survival was wearing on them. Lisa called everyone together. She said, "The storm is declining. It will probably stop in the next 2 days. We have supplies for 5 days minimum. We will be fine." Carol checked everyone again. She said, "Some of you are showing signs of exhaustion, psychological stress. We need to stay focused. We need to keep moving." Said, "What we need is hope. We need to show that we are not just surviving. We are thriving. We are maintaining order. We are building something." Aaron said, "What do you mean?" Said, "I mean we should invite them down. Let them see what we have created." There was silence. Lisa considered this. Susan said, "They expect us to be broken. They expect us to be desperate. Instead, they will see us organized and stable." Said, "It is a statement. It is saying that humans are not just animals that survive. We are beings that build, that create, that maintain civilization even in extreme conditions." Lisa said, "Send the transmission. Tell them we invite observation. Tell them they can come inside the shelter." Susan moved to the radio. She sent the message clearly. The transmission would take a few minutes to reach the orbital station. but it would get there. In the orbital station, received the message. He read it twice. The humans were inviting the aliens to observe their shelter. This was not the message of a desperate species. This was not the message of creatures fighting for mere survival. Said to his officers, "They are challenging us. They are saying our test did not break them." The council member who had wanted to retrieve the humans said, "This is an insult. We should refuse." Said, "No, we should accept. I need to see what they have created with my own eyes." He made the decision immediately. He would take a small landing craft down to the shelter. He would observe directly. He would bring 2 other observers with him. The landing craft touched down near the shelter. The wind still pushed against it, but the location was defensible, and 2 other, both named, and emerged into the blizzard. They were not prepared for the experience. The cold was more intense than any data could convey. The wind was physical. The snow was sharp like tiny daggers, but they moved toward the shelter entrance. Lisa opened the entrance. She welcomed them inside. The moment entered the tunnel, his external sensors registered the change. It was warmer. Not warm, but less cold. By the time he reached the main chamber, the difference was remarkable. Inside the shelter, the temperature was above freezing. They could actually feel their bodies relax from the deadly cold outside. The transition was shocking. The shelter was not large, but it was organized. It was clean. It was efficient. Tools were stored properly. Supplies were arranged. The heat source was tended carefully, and the humans moved with purpose and calm. Lisa said, "Welcome to our shelter. We have hot water if you want it." She was not intimidated. She was not desperate. She was confident. Showed the structure. He explained the snow block insulation. He explained the entrance tunnel design. He explained the geothermal heat channel beneath the shelter. Aaron discussed survival strategy. He explained how they maintained body heat through organization and rest scheduling. Carol explained human physiology. She described how humans adapted to extreme cold, how the body could slow its metabolism, how shivering generated heat, how humans had biological mechanisms for survival that other species did not possess. Explained the geological understanding that had allowed them to find the geothermal heat. He talked about how understanding the environment was as important as having physical shelter. Susan explained the organizational system, how they coordinated tasks, how they maintained morale, how they made decisions together. Listened to everything and recorded the information, but was experiencing something else. He was feeling the atmosphere inside the shelter. It was not just the physical warmth. It was something else. It was hope. It was competence. It was human beings who had faced impossible circumstances and refused to fail. Lisa offered a seat. She served hot water made from melted snow. She shared their food rations. It was not much, but it was offered with genuine hospitality. Said, "You invited us to observe. Why?" Lisa said, "Because we want you to understand something. Humans are not weak. We do not break easily. We are not soft creatures that need comfort and technology." She continued, "When everything is stripped away, when technology is gone, when comfort is gone, humans still function. We think, we create, we solve problems, we take care of each other." Said this shelter was made from basic tools and snow and ice. It was designed using only physics and engineering knowledge. It is stable, it is functional, it is safe. Aaron said, "Humans have survived worse. Our ancestors lived through ice ages when the entire world was frozen. They survived, they adapted, they thrived." Carol said, "The human body is designed for survival. We have physiological responses that let us endure extreme conditions. We are not the fragile creatures you believed." Said, "And we understand our environment. We learned the geology of this planet. We found resources. We solved problems. This is human intelligence at work." Susan said, "We organize ourselves. We work together. No one is abandoned. No one is left alone. When some are weak, others help. This is how humans function." Lisa said, "You gave us a test to prove we were weak. Instead, we proved we are strong." Stood up, he walked around the shelter one more time. He looked at every detail. He observed every aspect of how the humans had organized themselves. He said, "I understand now." The humans waited. Said, "You are not just surviving. You are thriving. You have created something from nothing. You have organized yourselves for collective survival. You have maintained hope and morale while facing conditions that should have destroyed you." Said 2, the council will not accept this. Said the council will accept what I report, and I will report the truth. He turned back to Lisa. He said, you are correct. Humans are not weak. The test is over. We will retrieve you when the storm clears. Lisa said, we can leave now if the shuttle can land. Said the landing craft can return. We will send it back when the worst of the storm has passed. You have proven your point. There is no need to push further. As and the other prepared to leave, they moved more slowly than when they arrived. They understood now what they had witnessed. They understood that humanity was something the council had fundamentally misunderstood. At the craft turned back to look at the shelter one more time. A structure made of snow and ice and human determination. A shelter that should not exist. A shelter that gave hope in the midst of a deadly blizzard. He transmitted to the orbital station. The humans have passed the test, more than passed it. They have the council chamber was silent, stood before them and delivered his report. The silence persisted as his words settled into the minds of the council members. Said the humans survived conditions that were designed to be unsurvivable. They did not just survive through luck or accident. They survived through intelligence, planning, and the ability to work together as a unified force. Said this contradicts your original assessment. You said the humans would fail within hours. Said my original assessment was based on incomplete data. I believed that humans lacked the capability to solve complex survival problems. I was wrong. The humans demonstrated sophisticated engineering. They demonstrated understanding of thermal physics. They demonstrated biological knowledge of how the human body adapts to extreme conditions. A council member named said, did they show weakness at any point? Said yes, physical weakness. Some showed signs of frostbite, some showed psychological stress. But they did not allow weakness to become failure. They supported each other. The strong helped the weak. When individual humans faced limits, they worked with others to overcome those limits. One of the observers who had visited the shelter added, the shelter itself is remarkable. The design demonstrates advanced understanding of thermodynamics and structural engineering. It was built with basic tools from materials found at the site. This is not the work of a primitive species. Added, the organizational system within the shelter showed sophisticated planning. Tasks were delegated. Resources were managed carefully. Decision-making was collective. They functioned as a unit with clear purpose. Said, what you are describing is not weakness. What you are describing is competence. Said, yes, exactly. Humans possess competence. They possess adaptability. They possess the ability to maintain hope and function under conditions of extreme stress. These are the qualities of a species that has survived in a harsh world. Said, but they still failed in some respects. They needed rescue. Said they did not need rescue. They were surviving independently. We offered to retrieve them when the worst of the storm had passed. They had supplies for 8 more days. They were in no immediate danger of death. Another council member, older than most, named, spoke. Rarely spoke in council meetings. Was the oldest member. Had seen many species come and go in the galaxy. Said, this is important. I have observed many species over many centuries. The species that survive in the galaxy are not always the most physically powerful. They are not always the most technologically advanced. The species that survive are the ones that can adapt, the ones that can create solutions to new problems, the ones that value each other enough to work together for collective survival. Continued, humans possess all of these qualities. They possess more than we gave them credit for. We tested them to prove they were inferior. Instead, we have discovered they are formidable. The council debated for hours. Some members argued for continuing to restrict human access to advanced technology. Others argued for more testing, but most of the council began to accept its conclusion. Finally, a decision was made. Humans would be offered membership in the galactic community, not as a lesser species needing guidance, but as equals, intelligent beings capable of understanding complex problems and creating solutions. 3 days later, they sent a retrieval shuttle to 9. The blizzard had finally stopped. The team emerged from their shelter into weak sunlight. The shield that had protected them was still intact, still strong, still functional. Lisa stood outside the shelter with her team. They had been on the planet for 5 days, 5 days of extreme cold and constant survival work. They were exhausted, they were malnourished, but they were alive. Said, we did it, we survived. Aaron said, "We did more than survive, we proved something." Carol said, "We showed them what humans can do." Said, "We showed them that knowledge is power. Understanding the environment, understanding how things work, this is what lets humans survive." Susan said, "And we showed them that cooperation is strength, that humans work better together than alone." Lisa looked back at the shelter one last time. She said, "This shelter will stand long after we are gone. It is a monument to human capability, a monument to what humans can achieve when we refuse to accept failure." They boarded the retrieval shuttle. As the shuttle rose, Lisa looked down at 9, at the shelter they had built, at the blizzard that had tried to kill them and failed. In the council chamber, Lisa was received with respect. She was not treated as an inferior. She was treated as the representative of a capable species. Said to Lisa, "You changed our understanding. You proved that humans are not what we believed." Lisa said, "Humans have always been what we showed you. You simply did not see it before. You saw what you expected to see. You did not see what was actually there." A council member named Shen said, "What will you do now? Will you accept membership in the galactic community?" Lisa said, "Yes, but with one condition. Humans will join as equals, not as a species needing guidance, not as a species waiting for permission from the. Humans will join as partners, as beings capable of contributing to galactic society." Said, "This is acceptable." The contract was signed. Humans were officially accepted as members of the galactic community, not through military conquest, not through technological superiority, but through demonstrating the qualities that the galaxy needed: adaptation, intelligence, cooperation, refusal to accept failure. As Lisa returned to the human delegation, she thought about the shelter, about the blizzard, about 5 humans and their own strength pushed to the limit and somehow still holding. She thought about all the humans throughout history who had faced impossible circumstances and survived. Ice Age hunters, mountain climbers, Arctic explorers, desert travelers. Every human culture had learned to survive in extreme conditions. The Council had created a test to prove humans were weak, but the test had revealed something the Council never expected. Humans were not weak. Humans were built for survival. Humans were built for adaptation. Humans were built to face the impossible and find a way forward. Back on 9, the shelter still stood. The snow continued to fall in lighter amounts. The geothermal heat still rose beneath it, and if another human team had landed there, they would have found the shelter intact, ready for use, a testament to what humans could build when everything tried to kill them. The blizzard had been defeated, not through superior force, but through intelligence, through planning, through cooperation, through refusal to accept the failure that was supposed to come. This was the truth of humanity. This was what the Council learned. Humans were formidable not because they were naturally strong or naturally talented. Humans were formidable because they would not quit, because they would not accept defeat, because they could see solutions where others saw only problems. And this understanding changed everything. It changed how they viewed humanity. It changed humanity's place in the galaxy, and it proved something that humans had always known. When everything is stripped away, when comfort is gone, when hope seems lost, humans still find a way, humans still survive, humans still build something better tomorrow. Transcended the test. The Council needs to understand that our assumptions about humanity were incorrect. In the shelter, the humans watched the landing craft rise into the blizzard. They had done what they needed to do. They had shown the what humans really were. In the orbital station, watched the readings. The shelter was still intact. The humans were still alive, against all calculations, against all expectations. The humans had survived the worst night of the storm. Realized that humanity was not what the Council believed. Humanity was something else entirely. Something the Council had not understood. Something that refused to die. Something that kept fighting no matter how impossible the odds. Made a decision. When the humans got back, he would tell the Council the full truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were formidable. Carol said, "We should show them what humans really are." In the orbital station above, watched the readings. The humans had not only survived, they had improved their situation. They had solved problems using nothing but tools and intelligence and determination. Realized something that troubled him deeply. His certainty that humans were inferior might be wrong. And if it was wrong, then what else was wrong? What else had the Council misjudged? He made a decision. He would watch this test continue. He would observe everything, and he would report the truth no matter what it meant for his beliefs about humanity. He lit the device. Flame appeared, small flame but real flame. Heat began to fill the shelter. Lisa looked at her team. She said, "We survived tonight. Tomorrow we make this better." In the orbital station above, watched the heat signature appear inside the shelter. He checked his calculations again. This made no sense. The shelter should provide no real protection. The heat source should not work in those conditions. But the humans were alive. The humans were surviving. Felt something he did not expect. He felt the first small seed of doubt about his certainty that humans were weak.